I don't like to conform to the British stereotypes, but I've been waiting a few days for it to stop raining so I could film this introduction to this small garden makeover. And it's still raining, so here we are. So let's get back to when the weather was better. In 3, 2, 1.
When you don't have a lot of space in your garden, you have to make it count. There's nowhere to hide those unsightly spots, which is very much the case with this old decking. This project started an entire year ago. You can see the state that the decking had got to, so it needed to go. I got my hammer, I got it up, and that's where it stayed for a whole year. And all those white things underneath were from a beanbag exploding. This garden makeover was very much the family affair, from children to dogs who didn't help too much, to grandparents. Everyone was involved in getting this small garden spruced up. The first step was cutting the timber frame for the new decking. These were cut to the right thickness with a circular saw and cut down to length with a miter saw. Whilst I am no decking expert, I followed the advice online as to how many pieces of wood we needed within the frame to make it as stable and secure as possible. Now that the frame was in place, at least temporarily, I could see which bits of the shed needed the paint touching up because they hadn't been painted the first time because the old decking was covering it. Fortunately, I had a pretty good match for the yellowy paint on the shed, and before fitting the new decking in, just painted down to those edges, and it blended together really well. And here's the team that made this frame possible. What has taken a mere 2 minutes to talk about probably took a few hours with all the various bits of wood to cut and fit together. And we couldn't have done it without our team of cheerleaders too, including the dog. And something we can laugh about now that it's finished is that somehow we did not order enough decking boards. In fact, we got it wrong by about half. But that didn't stop me. I had enough space to get my first coat of stain on and make good progress. Fortunately, we could get a delivery of more decking boards the next day, so it didn't slow us down.
Keep hearing cars go by and go, is that the delivery?
Despite this being a beautiful sunny day while we were doing this decking, here as I record this it is currently raining, so I braved going outside without my shoes on to find out the colour of the stain just in case you were interested, and it is Boston Teak by the brand Cuprinol. They recommend doing 2 or 3 coats between 2 and 6 hours apart. As this was lovely sunshine, it was completely fine to recoat within 2 hours, although of course we only had half the boards at this point. You can see I added some frog tape to the bottom of these doors just to avoid the back and forth of getting the stain on the doors, getting paint on the decking. Just do the prep in advance to have a few fewer regrets later on. While the new decking boards arrived nice and quickly, then the weather did turn. There's a bit of a theme here, isn't there? The weather has definitely been up and down so far this year. I managed to get the first coat of stain on the new decking boards nice and quickly, but then it rained for a couple of days, so I had to wait to finish it off, but in the end it just looks beautiful. It's such a warm colour, much prettier than the original grey decking that was here when I moved in, and certainly a far cry from the state that it had got to over the many years. I did debate staining the decking boards before installing them, because then you can get to the sides nicely rather than trying to get in between the gaps once it was in place. But the difficult thing about that is then you've got all these really long, nearly 5 meter long boards needing several coats, drying throughout the garden, taking up lots of space, and it just gets a bit tricky. So it made more sense to install them first and then go back with a smaller brush in the gaps to make sure that natural wood colour was disguised. I'm not sure what the top of this roof of the shed is called, but this was replaced just a couple of months ago because, again, this wood was basically falling down. It had a clear stain on top of it to protect it, and now I simply used the same Boston teak to tie it all together. In fact, when I took down that old rotten wood, it exposed a couple of bits where it hadn't been painted originally with that yellow paint. So again, I found that trusty yellow paint that was a good match for the original colour and touched up those areas as well, and it looks so much more tied together and like it was meant to look like this from the start. Here's the support team doing a fabulous job getting started painting the fence, getting paid in tea, biscuits and gratitude. My tip for painting a fence quickly, unless you're using a sprayer, is to get a big chunky brush and to start by painting the edges of each board. So don't start on the front, get a good amount of paint on your brush and paint the side, the edges where the board overlaps the next. By the time that you've painted the edges of both pieces of board, more than half of the board is painted and you can just do a quick stripe down the middle to finish it off. Whilst this is a small garden, this would have taken me most of the day if I'd done it by myself, so I was so grateful for having the help to paint it. In fact, it wasn't even in my original plan for the day to paint the fence, but because we had to wait for that decking delivery, we had the time, got it done, and it makes such a difference to the garden. So between the new decking, the flowers, the painted fence, we were able to completely transform this small garden in just a couple of days, ignoring rain stopping play for a little while.
Thank you so much for watching this makeover. I hope you enjoyed it despite the rain. There was plenty of sunshine too. And if you'd like to see the transformation of inside this giant shed as well, I will link that for you to watch too. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye.